And welcome once again to another episode of the HoriZone Roundtable. This is the second part of our fall fan episode, and fall, or whatever we're calling it, Jimmy. Since you came in, because you missed most of the first episode, you relinquished the right to name this now. I'm Bob McDonald. I'm over at Twitter. Not my theme music, Jimmy.
No? Well, it's
I don't
my
have any
theme music today.
Yeah. Mine would probably be something along the lines of DMX, but again, due to copyright issues, that sure as hell ain't gonna happen.
You say DMX like
DMX, like X gonna give it to you, DMX. Yes, I'm Bob McDonald. You can find me on Twitter at Bob McDonald. And
right.
now, Jimmy Lemke, are my co-host.
Hello.
Yes, found on Twitter at PantherU, and you can catch us on Twitter, the podcast at HoriZone RT. And I do want to kind of reintroduce everybody who is on the forum. As I did the last episode, I'm going to do this in alphabetical order. So John Durda, representing Cleveland State.
Hey, everybody, go Vikes.
All right, and let's see here.
Where?
Oh, dude, seriously, Jim, Sarah.
Hey, I'm here, and I just want to say I'm a West South Central graduate and a Green Bay graduate, so I'm waiting for my stunners from Jimmy today. We're predisposed to be at odds.
Predisposed to be at odds. All right.
Man.
Yeah. So we and then we also have Chris Schutte, representing IUPUI.
Hello.
All right.
Oh,
Fancy.
Schutte. That's awesome.
Dude, I told you he was going to be on. You really need to pay attention.
I knew he was going to be on. I didn't know if it was Chris Hart or Chris Schutte that wasn't going to make it.
Yeah, actually, they both should be here, but I got one. We got half anyway.
We got the cool half. That's right. What we got.
Oh God, Matt Dudek, Oakland.
Hey there, everybody.
And
What's
Ricky
up?
Redner, over at Wright State.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Ricky, it's been like 4 years since I've seen you, buddy.
I know, man. I still have the rally towel. Literally, hey, I'm looking at it right now in my room. So
do you get a pang of sadness every time you look at it?
I've got like 400 rally towels in here, so no, not really, but yeah, it does bring a little tear. I'm not gonna lie.
It's okay. I actually was talking to Tybee not that long ago, and we were reminiscing about that championship game.
Oh man, what a night!
Yeah.
So
it was a fun night.
So one of the questions that I had that I actually wanted to bring up, and this is something that, and God, I wish one of the I was able to grab one of the Northern Kentucky guys, and one of the questions I wanted to ask is about rivalries.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I have kind of harped upon forever is, you see a lot of opportunities for natural rivalries. I mean,
sure.
Matt, I'm sure can, he gives Carrick a bunch of crap about Detroit all the time. Actually gives crap about Detroit to all Detroit fans all the time.
All five of them hear me too. Let me tell you, those five are well aware of how I feel.
And I know the Northern Kentucky guys are really gunning for the Wright State folks these days. Makes perfect sense. You guys are about an hour away from each other?
Yeah, just about 55 miles, I believe.
There you go. So, and Jim, I don't need to tell you about Green Bay, Milwaukee.
I tell you what, like the way I see rivalries, you can have several.
Yeah,
I feel like there's some bit of rivalry with, for Milwaukee, there's a little bit of rivalry with just about everybody in the room. Sure. I guess I'm kind of representing Youngstown State a little bit here. So Youngstown State definitely has a rivalry with like Tiffin and St. Francis of Pennsylvania. And but they're
Wilberforce.
Wilberforce for sure, dude. Wilberforce and Youngstown, man,
these are
just
not
at each other's throats.
You know what? These are not, and I'm glad you brought Youngstown State up too, by the way, because for me, as a Cleveland State fan,
yeah,
I need to have this rivalry. I have to have this Cleveland State Youngstown State rivalry. It has to. I actually wrote about it last year, saying it was never going to happen. ever because our fan bases suck too bad. But damn it, I need it.
I mean,
I need this rivalry.
Well, Bob, I mean, you need a fan base before you can have a rivalry. I mean, it's
God damn it, I am a
me and you and a
fan.
couple others, but
well, I don't know. I mean,
At least in the Cleveland. Oh, go ahead, Jimmy.
I was gonna say, like, for however many fans there are, because we all have the in-state high majors,
Yeah.
and they don't look at us as potential rivals. But if you go to a place like Virginia, Virginia looks at VCU as a rival. UCLA looks at San Diego State as a rival. There's the potential for it. And even though, we don't have those big, huge fan bases, I feel like at least, those of us that are into it, at least will have some, they can have that rivalry. You don't have to pack the arena every time, but it should matter more to the people that are there. And I know that when when Butler was in the conference, that game mattered for everybody. And maybe Butler didn't give a crap about playing Youngstown until towards the end when Youngstown started inexplicably beating them. But that's the other part of it. As long as there's some winning on each side,
and that's
as
the other
long
thing
as
I'm glad
both
you brought
teams
that up.
care, there's rivalry. Milwaukee, we don't have a rivalry with Marquette because we have yet to beat them in Division One, so we can't claim a rivalry. There's a potential for one if we were to play. If Marquette were to stop being punk ass bitches and play a home and home with us, but that can't. They're holding the cards. They don't want to play that, so that's fine. So there's no rivalry yet. But
Bob, for
the
CSU YSU, one of the problems, I agree with what Jimmy's saying. The people that are there has to matter to them, but CSU has demonstrated in the past the ability to pack the arena. They have demonstrated that their people will come out when they're winning and doing well. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that they were winning and doing well.
Yep.
And YSU has never demonstrated the ability to pack their arena, and quite frankly, has never demonstrated the ability to do well in the HoriZone League era.
I want to point this out. Youngstown State did pack when they played Butler in 2011. They did sell out the Bigley Center legitimately.
But
they did.
Yeah, but that's a nationally ranked team coming to your home arena. That's once in a lifetime. They're getting West Virginia there, but at a neutral site in Youngstown, and that will get sold out too because there's interest in the big time.
To your
point, what defines your program is there's a little there's like a arena in I think downtown Youngstown that West Virginia is coming to play.
Valley Center.
Oh, okay.
Yep, but the idea of getting people for when the other teams come, that's what defines your fan base.
I'm glad you mentioned that because of the fact that, and to your point, Jim, if I'm not mistaken, every time Cleveland State goes to Youngstown State, that actually is one of the more well attended events. I don't know why it is. I know why, because it's rivalry. But on the flip side, of course, Cleveland State. It seems to me one side, and also to your point, is the fact that taking away the attendance over the past 2 or 3 years between Cleveland State and Youngstown State, the rivalry the head-to-head record between those two is around 500. It's pretty well evenly split.
Yeah, it is, Bob. I mean, but when you look at the games, I mean, are both teams getting extra fans in the seat because they're playing each other? I don't think that's the case.
Okay, good to know. But so what is it? What does it need? What needs to happen for that? And again, I'm at a point
for something to be called a rivalry or something to just. I mean, I think we got to make sure we define the question. Like, are you trying to figure out like how do you define rivals?
What is it?
I would define it as two teams where the communities, the fan bases care more. And that is demonstrated. Sometimes it's demonstrated by showing up. Sometimes it's demonstrated by, there's any number of ways it can be demonstrated, but really who gets up and how do the players care more to play that game?
All right. Well,
let me chime in.
Yeah.
Oh, if I can, because I know who is the Valhalla Vanguard. That's how you pronounce him on Twitter.
Yeah.
They've been all over trying to create this rivalry with Wright State. I can tell you, as one of the few lone Wright State representatives on Twitter, I could give two shits about Northern Kentucky. I just, from a rivalry standpoint, I actually was in Northern Kentucky last year when they played them. I was at Wright State when they played them. It's another league game for me. It's been decent games because it's been two top teams the last couple of years, but to me, and I guess to Jimmy's point too of them and Marquette, to me, my bigger rivalry is Dayton, UD. Now, granted, we don't play them every year, so it's not a rivalry, but I would much rather see UD lose or have a rivalry with them than I would Northern Kentucky.
I mean, here I will say this. Like, you bring up you'd rather see Dayton lose. I think everybody would be in agreement that Milwaukee and Green Bay are arch rivals.
Yes.
There's no argument there. I would rather see Green Bay win every non-conference game they play than see Marquette beat Green Bay. Like, when Green Bay beat Marquette, I was jumping around excited as hell because I hate a lot of the way that Marquette fans would treat us. I hate Wisconsin far more. Those guys are just arrogant pricks. But this whole idea of a rivalry, like, we can't have it until we beat each other. And for us, I had friends that were Wisconsin fans that started caring a lot more about beating Milwaukee once we went and beat them a couple years ago. That when we went in there in December 2015 into the Kohl Center and came out with the victory, all of a sudden the Wisconsin fans that are friends of mine, which Jim will attest is most people in Wisconsin, all of a sudden those people actually cared about beating me. Now, it's one victory does not make a rivalry, but it shows that there's potential. It shows that there's potential for those games.
One thing I would say on the rivalry side of things, you're hitting on it. I think for Ricky with Wright State and Northern Kentucky, I can say this from a Green Bay perspective, and I think Jimmy would be okay to speak this way. Yeah. Back 20 years ago, there wasn't a rivalry between Milwaukee and Green Bay. It was another game because Green Bay had won so many times.
Yeah.
Over time.
Don't tell my boss that.
But when the games became more competitive, and in the early Kowalczyk and Pearl years, they were playing for something meaningful. They were playing for first and second place in the league, and suddenly that became a hot ticket, a hot game, and it still remains to this day a hot game because that rivalry was born out of the game meaning something for the first time, geographically close, but then the game started to mean something. Wright State and Cleveland State, I don't think is ever going to mean anything until not Wright State, Youngstown State and Cleveland State's not going to mean anything until Youngstown State gets out of the cellar and does something with their team, the way that Milwaukee did to rise up in the league 15 years ago.
To that point too, I don't disagree, and I've said this on Twitter. I'm on the record saying this is that I think it could eventually become a rivalry, and I think it could become a really good rivalry. My point being is that I think the people on Twitter are trying to force it, and I don't think you can force rivalries by just starting to talk shit on Twitter.
Amen to that. Amen.
I do think that.
But I'm so good at it.
The funny thing about Wright State and Northern Kentucky is that, and Jim should know this, is the rivalry between Wisconsin and Marquette seems a lot more like what Ricky is describing as Northern Kentucky despises everything that Wright State is and stands for because they're trying to create something. And they're like the Marquette in that, whereas the Badger fans really don't care very much about Marquette, and Wright State, like you're saying, really, you guys don't really give a crap. It's just another league game. It's interesting that even like a mid-major to a high major level that can exist together in one. It's kind of that itself is funny to me that we can see that ball. But the one thing I did want to say as far as like Wright State with a Northern Kentucky is it's definitely a potential thing, but on the same side, I know how guys like Big D think at Wright State, in that there could be something there, but it's a league game because you just don't know if in 5 years are either of these teams or both of these teams or none of these teams going to be members of the conference. because that conference realignment has just turned everything so far on its head that it has just made it very difficult to really, keep rivalries and stay with rivalries. When I was trying to push our chancellor into like, creating kind of like a mid-major super league in the Midwest, I was still trying to I was still pushing like, hey, talk about like bring Green Bay along. Like they may not have like the money, but like I would feel weird losing that game. Like I would feel bad about losing that game. Like I felt bad when we lost the Loyola game because Loyola was our closest conference team for so long that I felt bad about it. Like losing.
You felt bad about not getting that automatic 2 wins every year. Come on now.
Yeah, that was the thing, is that we talk about rivals have to beat each other, and Loyola, even when Milwaukee was killing it, Loyola would occasionally, take a victory here or there. 06, 07, when Milwaukee was crap, Loyola beat us. I think they swept us that year. Like nobody could see what Loyola was going to be. On
the rivalry, I was gonna say on the rivalry front, like nobody could see what Loyola is going to be. I don't think anybody can sit here and tell me for sure what Northern Kentucky is going to be. I know what Wright State is. Wright State is the team that spends near the most money in the league, has the biggest fan base, has some of the nicest facilities, is committed to men's basketball. And Northern Kentucky has the facilities, has a coach right now, has a little hot streak. But we've seen Milwaukee go cold. We've seen UIC go cold. We've seen Cleveland State go cold. We've seen Detroit go cold. Until Northern Kentucky's doing this on a regular basis, which you can't convince me they're necessarily going to do. Yeah, I wouldn't make that a rivalry either. And to Wright State's point, you don't just talk smack on Twitter and it's a rivalry.
Would you guys be in agreement with me that like that Northern we just, it's not that we can say that it's not going to be, or we can say that it's going to be, it's that we don't know. Where we have potentials for rivalries, Northern Kentucky has potential to be something special. And because of where they are and what they are and what they have and how new they are to this Division I thing, Northern Kentucky has the potential to be a VCU. They do have that potential. It's just, are they going to be able to capitalize it? And as much as, Ricky will make fun of this whole, like, you can't create a rivalry on Twitter, at the same time, like, I think that that's necessary because you need guys like, you need Chris and the Valhalla Vanguard and all those guys to be pushing it for them to care about things like rivalries, because when you get kids to care about rivalries, that means they're also taking ownership of their own program. So if you can get an entire student body to really care about the program, that's going to be such a huge deal. And I'm sure we have one last year in LCA before it's like totally done. And I would love to see them go back to it, because I really, really want Northern Kentucky fans to understand all of the complaining that we were doing and Valpo fans were doing and UIC fans were doing and Wright State fans were doing, because those are the schools that understand what it is to host that championship game, or at least UIC's been there and UIC gets things that half the conference seems to not fucking get. But like, I want Northern Kentucky to see that, because Northern Kentucky's got potential. Everything about Northern Kentucky is potential. It should be on their school crest for the moment, but everything they have to capitalize on. And one of those things is creating that rivalry with Wright State. They have to push it. So I don't know, man. Ricky, if I were you, I would push it right back, because the more that you can get Wright State kids, Wright State fans to care about somebody in conference that you really haven't cared very much for since Butler left, the more you guys can care about a program, the more it'll help you guys in the long run too.
And I'll give them props. I love it. I mean, I like what they're doing. I just don't think it's there yet on the Wright State side, but I will give them props. I do love what they're doing with it all.
How about Wright State starting a rivalry with IUPUI just to piss off the Northern Kentucky people? So that it always has this elitist, like we're always looking down at Northern Kentucky, but even we're worried about IUPUI. Now that would be something to stimulate the Northern
That
Kentucky
would be
people.
so hilarious.
Can we make like a trophy game right now? Can we make this like a de facto like trophy game, and we'll do like some exchange on social media?
Yeah,
There we go. We're declaring it the IUPUI Wright State border war. There,
Chris, where are your people? Like where
I am the people.
where is the ooey pooey? We need the ooey pooiness everywhere. And by the way, I know a lot of IUPUI people hate that like ooey pooey name, but it's a brand that people people get it. People get it. It's like Moorhead
mad at that. It's
Chris, let me tell you something too. I'm still bitter about IUPUI making Wright State play them at 10:30 in the morning on a Friday.
I was at that game. It was terrible.
Oh crap! I don't even remember that.
I was watching it. I'm trying to watch it at work, and I just hear like 8,000 like kindergartners screaming. Like I was just like, "This is the worst."
Yeah,
that was an
elementary school game. Oh
yeah. Oh, I was so bitter. I'm more bitter about that than anything else.
We do that for women's basketball, and UIC has done.
I'd say UIC. That's a total UIC move.
But here's the thing: is that UIC will even do that for night games. Like UIC will give up like 500 tickets to schools like almost every game.
That reminds me of that actually reminds me of the CYO game Cleveland State used to have at the Wolstein Center, and I avoided that game like the plague because it's like a bunch of little kids running around the arena. And I'm like, and I'm.
You have to buy earplugs.
I'm just gonna leave it at that because those little. I'm just gonna leave it at that because I was not a fan of those games. In spite of the fact that there's like I don't know. It's probably one of the most well-attended games ever.
It's like if you're Dennis Nedry and you're just trying to get your Jeep out of the mud, while like watching the game, and you have this little bastard of a dinosaur gets in there, and you think it's cute, and then it starts like squeaking, and you're like a little annoyed by it, a little worried by it, but you want to get your Jeep out of the mud. But instead of like just one of them goes in, sprays him in the face, and kills him, all of a sudden it's like thousands of them. And there's no way you can get your Jeep out of the mud, watch the game, because you just have these like velociraptors like in your ear. You have to get earplugs to even attend one of those games.
Is it sad that it took me like a minute or two to figure out you were making a Jurassic Park reference?
I shouldn't have just said Dennis Nedry. I should have been.
Who the hell is Dennis Nedry?
Come on.
See, and I feel as a movie kind of I know it's Newman. As a movie connoisseur, geez, I should know that. Of course, I haven't seen.
See, if Chad Knoebel were here, he'd make a Seinfeld reference with Newman.
There you go. See,
hey,
exactly.
Jimmy,
yeah,
you were talking about the IUPUI brand, and this would be a question, for yourself or for Chris. When they had the announcement that IUPUI was coming into the league, didn't they have something about further marketing updates or branding that was going to come with that? Did anything ever happen with that? I mean, am I living under a rock over here? I'm in Milwaukee, but am I under a rock?
Yeah, everything's about promises, and because we're a mid majors, a lot of mid majors don't have to follow through on promises, especially when like there's only like a couple people that'll be like, hey, you said you were going to do this, and you're not doing it. And then they can point to, well, nobody cares anyways. So
no, that's I stopped I actually missed that. I stopped listening when the second they said, "Well, we have plenty of money." That was after that. After that, I'm like, okay.
The thing that sucks the most for IUPUI is that the University of Indianapolis exists.
Yeah,
if Indy didn't exist, man, that's the brand. That's the brand. Just like UIC should be University of Chicago, except that already exists. Yeah. Like you can't,
By the way, hilarious. It's funny. I know with the University of Indiana because one of my old bosses is actually like an All-American steeplechaser from U of Indy. Yeah. So like that's like every time I hear that, I like think it like now I know. I'm like but you have that too and. Well, not only you have the University of Indianapolis, you have IUPUI, and that seems very confusing. I'm sure that seems confusing to people. I'm sure, but that's probably why.
I want to get this out before I forget about it. Hey, Jim,
Yes.
Speaking of rivalries, how about Alfonso getting in a two-way with the Warriors?
On one hand, that's awesome for Alfonso. He's a good dude. That was a great team. And on the other hand, you see McKinney in the NBA. You see Brown drafted in the NBA. You see Sykes playing at a high level overseas. And you go, man, what a missed opportunity for Green Bay to not make the tournament with that team.
I honestly thought, like, I had gone to like 5 Green Bay games that weren't with Milwaukee that year. And I thought to myself, like, damn, like McKinney is a player. If he had been healthy,
he was an above the rim player. I mean, with range.
If he had not had the health issues, and I know he had them at Eastern and he had them at I can't remember the first school he was at. But
he was at Eastern for 2 years and then came to Green Bay for the final 3.
Yeah, but he started at another school and just never even like played. Like he was going to redshirt, but he left before. I think he left before like school started. If he had never had any injury problems and he had been able to develop and he had, been able to get the coaching, and I totally believe Wardle could have developed him like that. I think he would have been the best of the 3 players. He would have been absolutely the best of the 3, and that would have. I mean, I think I said this on Twitter or Reddit or something the other day, but I was like, an Alfonso McKinney who did not have any, injury history and is allowed to develop, would have been the best player on a Sweet 16 team, in that year. Like that was such a great team. And
hey, Ricky. Do you have any of those rally towels? I'm crying over here. I need a little help.
And who did he knock out for that spot at Golden State? Kendrick Nunn.
Really? Really?
Wow.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. Sorry.
No, it's fine. No problem. I forget what it's called, the special contract where it's got the incentive
two-way.
No, not the two-way.
Oh.
There's there's like another special name where there's an incentive. Yeah, that. And so, but he was one of the final cuts where McKinney got the spot.
I'm sure Kendrick Nunn will have a prosperous career overseas, and still at the moment, you can still make more money overseas than you can in the G League.
Well, there's that, and the same day that Nunn got cut, Kay Felder got cut from Toronto, which is his 8th team I think he's been cut from, and I just keep wondering if he's just going to go over. I know that kid will make a lot of money overseas if he wants it. So
we have Clay Tucker who graduated in 2003, and he's still playing overseas, and he's easily a millionaire. I think his best contract at I think it was when the year he was on CSKA in Moscow. I think he made over $1 million that year. So you can make a solid living.
Absolutely.
I mean, good mid-major players can go and make $100,000 no taxes and have all your expenses paid for you, like right off the bat, on like a second level French league or something. So
actually, I'm pretty sure that's what Norris Cole did, because Norris Cole just won a championship at Maccabi Tel Aviv, and now he's in Italy, probably making a crap ton of money.
Yeah, the biggest risk those guys take.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I say the biggest risk those guys take. There's a book out by Paul Shirley, if you remember that guy from the Suns and the Iowa State Cyclones. He had the hardest time getting paid. He could sign a contract anywhere, but getting the money from Russia or Greece or some of these other places was dicey at best.
That's definitely true. There are a few leagues, because I remember talking to Clay, because when Clay was on Real Madrid, he wasn't making as much as he was from CSKA in Moscow, but it was his paycheck was deposited, they had direct deposit, and it was done on time every time, and it was like the first time in his career that he had that. So he had never not been paid, but sometimes it'll take a team like 6 months to pay out.
Well, you gotta if you're playing overseas, then you gotta get in the basketball tournament and play for overseas elite like Travis Bader was doing, and just keep winning.
Yeah.
That's So, I'm glad. Actually, one of the other questions I had, and Jim, this is something I probably wanted to ask you because this involves Green Bay. What do you guys make of Green Bay putting together this fan council that they announced a couple weeks ago?
I think it goes part and parcel with the new athletic director, Charles Guthrie. He is all business, and when I totally respect that. And he is thinking about new ways to do things, not just stuck in the academic way that a lot of schools happen to be like, this is how we've always done it, or, it's not a business. I view him as somebody who understands the academic side of, these are higher education, schools of higher education, but understands it's a business. And as such, you need the fans to be engaged. You need them to be, paying attention to your team. You need them to turn out at the gate. You need them to buy merchandise and wear it. I mean, they've rebranded the logo as an example. They've got more signage on campus for athletics.
I like it. Every time I look at it, I like it more. It's a good logo.
And ultimately, when you look at what he's doing, he's trying to connect the fan to the team. And I don't see how that can go poorly. I mean, there's nobody saying they're going to implement any of the ideas. If all the ideas are no good or they don't get any good enough ideas, but they're at least listening to the fan. And it costs nothing to do this. It's such a no-brainer, and I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah,
anything they can Green Bay, and Green Bay's got to bat 1,000 with people because you only have 6,000 kids, like a private school. So you gotta get everybody involved. And I love that Green Bay's been able to put together such a solid corporate sponsorship with Bell and Health, because you need to be able to reach out into the community more and better. I would, if I were with Green Bay, like if I were up there and I were trying to get people at games, I mean, I would try and I would push Packers. I'd be like, look, we'll give you a courtside seat right now. Just come hang out with us tonight. Meet the team. Just come meet the team, watch the game, enjoy yourself. And I know I've seen Randall Cobb at Green Bay games.
Mason Crosby.
I met Mike McCarthy.
He might be there more often now.
We went over and met Mike McCarthy at the semifinals in 2014. So like, I mean, they show up for it, but it would be nice if Green Bay can take advantage of that, being in close proximity to such a religion in this state.
Interesting
to have that, yeah.
Interesting that you say that, because I was talking to Charles earlier this summer, and he had mentioned to me that he's not going to be afraid of going head to head with the Packers. And you see that in their schedule this year. They've got 2 home games on Packer weekends, one against Indiana State, one against Belmont. And his thought process is that in the past, we lived in fear of the Packers and kind of bowed down to the Packers. And the basketball fan may not be a total crossover to the Packer fan. So why not just play your games and do your thing? And if people are going to come out, they're going to come out. And if you got a good product, they're going to come out. You see them going head to head and saying, hey, we're going to figure out a way to play games. I mean, they're playing a Friday afternoon game against Indiana State on campus because it just works better for the Packer weekend. They want to play the game. They're going to play the game. And I think that's great.
I would love on a day that the Packers play at like 3:00. I would love if Green Bay was like, okay, we're going to play an 11 o'clock game on a day when the Packers play at 3, and then literally like push people who are like, try and work it out with the Packers. Be like, hey, you're selling tailgate passes ahead of time. How about we like include, see if we can like figure out how to include a way to get somebody discount tickets, or maybe even like here's 2 free tickets if you buy one, or say buy 2 get 2 free, whatever you got to do. But like make it so like people will like okay, we can go and give them an ability to park early for the Packer game if it's a Sunday night game or a Sunday afternoon game rather than the noon game, and then give it so you can parlay that into, hey, try go head to head with them, but also use them. You got to use what you got. And if you can like give somebody a benefit to like, okay, if you pay another $20, not only can you park in early, but you get tickets to this basketball game, and then you'll have 3 hours to tailgate outside. Maybe you can pick up, a couple hundred people that way. Because I think there's plenty of people who would be happy to, sit and wait for the Packer game and watch a college basketball game at the same time, and more importantly, a college basketball game where you can actually sit and drink beer. Like it's the Resch Center's proximity to Lambeau Field cannot be overstated, and I think too much of the time, a lot of Green Bay fans, and I'm guilty of this too, kind of look at it as this shadow that's cast over the program, rather than something that maybe we shouldn't. That maybe like we should be like not just going right up against, which I totally like that too, but also taking advantage of it.
I definitely can see where you're coming from. on one hand, you're only one step away from having a playground game in the parking lot in December, which would be something, shovel in the ground between timeouts. But, when I think it's something that your coach, Pat Baldwin, says all the time, and I love it. I use it at work all the time. I said, make every day your big time. And I kind of like the idea of making every game day for Green Bay its own big time. And people buy into that atmosphere, especially if you have that winning team going. Totally. So I can see where you're coming from. And yet by the other flip side of that, I love the idea of saying, hey, we're our own brand and we want you to come out and see our brand and we're going to make it a big time atmosphere for you. They've got a lot of great promotions going on. They've partnered with the Aspire group coming up this year. I know a lot of teams have done that. I really think there's some opportunity to improve fan attendance on the Green Bay side because they're coming off their worst year in a long time. But I think it's going to step up this year for them, mainly because of how they're going about their scheduling, better schedule, and willing to take on tough weekends that they would have stayed away from in the past.
For sure.
So you guys so Green Bay has the Aspire group, works with partners with the Aspire group.
They do. That is new for this year. So that's total. Yeah, that's totally additive to what they're doing. So Aspire is trying to bring on new donations, new ticket sales, as opposed to glomming on to what they already have.
You guys should, for the listeners who don't know what Aspire is, you should explain it.
The Aspire group is they are more on the management side. I know Cleveland State has partnered with them for about a year to work on primarily ticket sales within athletics, which is funny you mentioned them because Cleveland State partnered with Aspire last year and I haven't seen the difference in attendance, and I sure as hell haven't seen the difference in any promotions. And which brings me to my other question is, what other schools would kind of benefit from kind of having a fan council? I know Cleveland State sure as hell would.
IUPUI.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, it to me, I think that setup there. I think the way that Green Bay is approaching it, I think is an outstanding idea because it's from what it sounds like they're kind of trying to pull from they're trying kind of getting feedback from both students and alumni and the community and at least trying to get some meaningful feedback. And I'm not at a Cleveland State, I never see that, and it pisses me off all the time. I don't know if you guys noticed that at all, but
it's a process of getting people to advocate for your program. I mean, if people think that every day it's just some rinky-dink operation, they're not going to put themselves out there and say, let's talk about Green Bay. And you look at, even though he's arch rival, you look at what Jimmy's done with his Panther U, with his social media platform. Like he's advocating for Milwaukee every day. And that's what some of these programs need. They need advocates that are out there living the brand, being part of it, wearing the gear, talking about basketball, going to the games, not complaining about everything, but seeing the good in it and showing up and people feed off of that. I mean, I have friends of mine that didn't go to Green Bay, that go to Green Bay games, go to road games with me because they sense the passion that I have for it.
I think the Milwaukee fans, myself included, probably more than most, should probably listen to the whole not complaining part of what you just said. Spent way too much time complaining.
I mean, some of those guys are way down the rabbit hole of negativity now. I mean, they're better off just stop being basketball fans for a while than
it got bad. It was Rob Jeter was not Bruce Pearl. That was a big part of the problem. He wasn't as successful as Bruce Pearl. Milwaukee fans got this idea that because of what Bruce Pearl did, all of a sudden that's something we should expect, or something close to it is something that we should expect. Like, I'm not kidding when fans would immediately wanted the Panthers to all of a sudden be an NCAA tournament 3 out of 4 years and win a game on one of those 4. They want to win in the NCAA tournament once every 4 years. I don't think that's a bad goal. But I also didn't think that it was a lot to expect of a program that was so new to success, especially when you were switching over to a new coaching staff. And that really kind of created this rift where there were those of us, like I came right after Bruce Pearl. So Bruce Pearl left and Jeter got hired, and then I came that fall. I had been to a few games when I was in high school, but and that was my first. I was definitely like a Rob Jeter guy. And there were a lot of people that had been around when Pro was there and were tired of not getting there. And there were even some of them that were just never accepted him even in the beginning. Like I remember they beat Oklahoma in the NCAA tournament in 06, and you had these fans complaining that after the loss to Florida, like, oh, we should have won that. And then all of a sudden, like, Florida wins a national title, and then they do it the next year again. And you have these fans that they don't remember why, but they remember that they didn't like that Jeter only went one game in his first year. And it was just this chasm of negativity. And I would love for the program to kind of reset. And the problem is that, like, the people that have been on it with me on my side, I guess I would call it, is that they've had a hard time accepting Pat Baldwin, because we know what he is, which is a guy that Amanda hired that wasn't going to ruffle shit. He's just going to let her do, whatever she wanted. He wasn't going to try and question it.
Jimmy, to your point, I don't think maybe that's in your case, obvious in Milwaukee's case, obviously there's going to be, it goes, it breaks bad really quickly. And actually, I think
we'll be better when she's gone. I think we'll be better when she's gone, and I feel bad that that all of the negative publicity we brought her probably stopped her from advancing in her career, which would have gotten her out of here. I feel bad about that.
To your point, though, it's to me it doesn't sound like to me it sounds like demanding some level of accountability. That's what it sounds like to me, at least, is that you see misstep after misstep after misstep, and you can only take but so much. And then, after a certain point, you're going to do one of two things. You're either going to blow up or you're going to walk away.
Yeah.
And I don't, it's, and all the, all that hope you had about, potentially new coach, new AD, whatever, after a certain point, it kind of gets beaten into the ground.
I really
don't want to deal. After and then you get to a point where you're sitting there years later, and you feel like you're beating your head against the wall, and who wants to deal with that? And who wants to deal with that is a question. And this
it's why I've taken a pretty far step back in the last couple of years. Like I saw what was done to the program, and obviously the proof is in the pudding. They exaggerate attendance, and they're putting 1,200 people on the scoreboard on the box score. Like when you have to exaggerate attendance to get to 1,200, there's something seriously wrong. Amanda went and hired a kid named Adam Shem. I shouldn't call him a kid because he's a year older than me, but Amanda went and hired a guy named Adam Shem, who was an intern when I was in school. And I think Adam, going back to the negativity, Adam is the antithesis. Like he's complete opposite of it. He's unfailingly positive. He's good with everybody. And for me, any hope that I would have would be based on him being there. And Leah Tyne, who runs marketing, and I think she got another promotion this offseason. Like having a couple people that I believe in the athletic department helps me. And I'm always with the guys on SID. Like so there are people in that athletic department that I trust and believe in. And at the same time, I'm like, I can't get past seeing this person. You know what I'm talking about. I can't get past seeing this person.
One thing in Milwaukee's case, I can understand the perspective, but there were a lot of missteps before Amanda. I think
there definitely were.
Part of what the league needs, and I think Wright State's done a great job with this, I think Green Bay's done a great job with this, is that they've never really bottomed out. Even when they've been bad, they've never bottomed out. Where Milwaukee, they've had a year or two post NCAA tournament success where they've, bottomed out. UIC's bottomed out. CSU's bottomed out. And having that support at the chancellor or school president level, the athletic director level, I'd be curious. I think Matt's back on the call. Doesn't Oakland have a new athletic director?
We do. Our other guy, blinking on names right now, my mind's not there. He just took off to Northeastern in Boston. So
Jeff Kanye.
Cognac. Yeah. Thank you, Cognac.
How do I know that and you don't?
I'm blanked right now.
Did you just say Jeff Cognac already left Northeastern?
What's that?
He left for North. He left for Northeastern.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I thought you said like he jumped from there already. Okay.
No, he jumped from. Sorry, I just tuned out because you guys have been talking so much about all the other stuff in Milwaukee and all that. I tuned out.
Sorry.
My brain here. No, you're good.
I mean, when I look at Oakland, as a school, obviously you've got the student body, you've got, decent funds for sports. I think that the athletic director there mentioned on the facility front, they're a little light. I've been to the arena. It's definitely a little bit light in terms of what the rest of the league or much of the rest of the league has.
Here's the thing with the arena. Yeah, it's smaller, but that's kind of on purpose. When that place gets filled and you've got 4,000 people going nuts, it's loud. It's a better home court advantage than almost anybody else is putting out there.
I don't think it should be. I don't think you can underestimate what the trend is in sports overall, and college basketball has felt it more than some of the other sports, is that you're getting fewer people to go to games.
Yeah.
You're not having fewer fans, but fans having the ability to watch a game from home, and that's something that Horizon League definitely feels right now, is those fans are less likely to actually make the trip to the arena to watch the game. So you're seeing attendance drop pretty much everywhere.
I can definitely agree that you don't need a bigger arena, but when I think of the O arena in particular, I mean the amenities there are just awful.
That's what I'm saying. Like
when you go to the game, it's not a good experience other than the fan, the loudness of it. I mean, I don't know if Matt, do you agree with that? When I was there, I felt like I had to go way up in the corner or down and around into like the hallway to get a hot dog, and I can't imagine that the players have a good experience with locker rooms and practice courts and everything else.
Well, the practice court is an issue. They don't have one. That's just it. They share that facility between all sports, volleyball, all of it. The practice facility is actually the biggest issue, but from a fan experience, I've never had an issue. I think most people enjoy it. I mean, concessions, nothing special, but I mean, it's not bad. I mean, we've got Michigan does the Coney Island thing a lot. We've got a National Coney Island that's, I think, slinging out of there. Like, it's all good by me. Somebody was talking about, attendance is down. For me personally, I'm going to attend more games this year because Oakland has signed on to the ESPN 3+ thing where I now have to pay for more games, and I'm not paying ESPN to watch games. I'd rather go to the arena at that point.
Yeah.
I will say this, when I was at the arena, the concessions weren't great, but they were better than when I was at Detroit Mercy, where they were ordering pizzas and then selling it by the slice, like in the hallway.
Oh sure, that place is a joke. I almost feel bad kicking that. Kirky's not even here to defend them. That building is just an atrocity. Like, as much as we joke about it, it's true. I have had to wipe dust off of seats in the upper bowl before sitting down.
Yeah, they were ordering Papa John's. I went out there right before halftime, and they didn't have anything. They said, come back in 5 minutes. We're getting Papa John's delivered. And then they're selling it by the slice. Just totally ridiculous.
Wow.
There should not surprise anybody that they're ordering Papa John's either, but that's probably more a political statement than anything.
In Detroit, why the heck aren't they just going to get Little Caesars, man? You guys, I mean, I haven't been to the LCA yet.
That seems like
Joe had the best concessions I've ever experienced. We went to a Detroit. My friends and I took a trip to Detroit. I think it was like 2009 or so. We took a trip to Detroit. We watched the game. That game was like 11 in the morning on a Saturday, and then the night we decided we were gonna, instead of going back to Milwaukee, we decided to stop and we went to the Red Wings game at the Joe. They were playing the Senators. And I got a pizza, a pepperoni pizza. It was $15, and I'm thinking like, okay, I see the box. That shit's got to be like a tiny little circle because it was like 13 inches square box. I'm thinking that thing's got to be like a small like 6-inch pizza. And I got there, and I'll be damned if that entire box wasn't full of Little Caesars pizza, and not like a hot and ready pizza, but like one they just made. So it was like
hot
and ready and actually tasted good.
Oh man,
it was super good.
Stuff.
It's funny you talk about the Joe versus Little Caesars Arena. I was at both for Motor City Madness, and whatever you want to say about the idea of Motor City Madness, we did that in the first episode. The venue, the Horizon League was really lucky to be in probably one of the top venues in the country. That was
beautiful,
sure,
unreal. It was. I mean, they're going to be hard pressed, and to find something on equal footing, because Little Caesars Arena was amazing. I walked in there, I was like, holy cow, this is amazing. Now, subsequently, I've been to the Fiserv Forum, and I feel like Fiserv has a better overall viewing experience, but the amenities at Little Caesars were top notch.
It's a beautiful facility. We were way lucky to be in there, and people don't realize it, but that's fine. I mean, everyone wants their on campus. We talked about it in the last episode. You're not gonna be as happy as you think you are, I don't think. But
no. All right. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and I'll go ahead and wrap this up, gentlemen. It was a pleasure having you guys all on once again, or for the first time, for that matter.
Hello.
All right, we appreciate it, and we will go ahead and wrap this up. So you can listen to all episodes of the HoriZone Roundtable from the very beginning, with the exception, of course, Jimmy's first episode from 2013 that's on YouTube somewhere. Whole other episode for a whole other day. But we're at sportshacks.com, hax.com, and you can find us. You can actually find us on all your podcast apps, Google Home, Alexa. We have a YouTube channel too on Sports Hacks too. You can actually find us there. So we look forward to having to the next episode. And thank you all for listening.
Thanks for having me.
thanks for having us, Cole.
Thanks, Bob.
Seriously, this was